put packages for the workshop on the seats in the front, however many rows. So we'd like to invite people to bunch up as much as possible, and we're going to just work on this side of the room, and we've even got stuff going on the wall on this side of the room. So we'd like to encourage everybody to just bunch up and come across the aisle or get yourself a package from an empty seat. Don't be shy, there's lots of seats here in the front few rows, and as soon as everyone's had a chance to relocate, we can get moving. We're feeling pretty nervous because we weren't expecting to be in this kind of room, and we're more used to doing, you know, popular education kind of stuff with 12 women, 30 women, so just bear with us. You'll hear our voices shaking, and we're going to be needing to take deep breaths. So I'm Paradis, and these are my colleagues Sherry Bardie and Patricia Cummings Diaz, and we're going to be just passing the mic around. We work with a project called We're Not Asking, We're Telling, building on good practices in services for women and families facing homelessness. And I think I'm supposed to be introducing the project right now, but I'm just going to take a quick glance at the outline that Patricia's holding to make sure that that's indeed correct. Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. I know how to do that. I've got that one memorized. So this project is a participatory action research project based in Toronto, but our scope really takes in some of Southern Ontario as well. And it came out of some previous participatory action research projects with women and families facing homelessness. We've been really blessed in Toronto in the last 5 years or so. There's been a lot of these types of projects where women who are facing homelessness have been actively involved in the design and implementation of research projects, have been involved in determining what the questions are, how to gather the information, and then gathering the information and analyzing it and deciding what to do with it. Some of those are the Count Us In project by the Ontario Women's Health Network, the Claiming Our Rights project at Sistering, and the Coming Together project and Artists and Homeless Collaborative, and some others as well. So in those projects, as women are speaking with each other around questions that are of direct interest to themselves and their communities, similar themes kept coming out. And one of the themes is the need for the big system change to increase social assistance rates, to increase the supply of affordable housing, and to increase the availability of supports, and to deal with issues of violence that women face, and to deal with racism and other forms of discrimination that exclude women from housing. So those big system change recommendations have been going out over and over again. But the other thing that women speak of over and over, and sometimes it might be a little harder to hear, is the need for change in frontline services in the ways that services are provided. And consistently women share experiences within frontline services that at times have been demeaning, at times have been constraining, and have even made women feel re-victimized, re-abused, or that their rights are being violated. And we decided that this project was an opportunity to address some of those service practices that might be contributing to that, and to try to re-envision services. So in order to do that, we planned this participatory research project. So the majority of the research team have experienced homelessness, and we'll talk about the importance of locating ourselves in a minute. The majority of the advisory committee are women working with organizations that represent women facing homelessness. The project is a partnership between a university office, the city center at University of Toronto. That's my kind of home base. And Forward for Women's Autonomy, Rights and Dignity, which is a self-advocacy group, multicultural
grassroots group of homeless and a multicultural grassroots group of homeless and underhoused women.
That rolls right off. And Ontario Women's Health Network, which is a community-based women's health organization. So from the start, the project was really based in the community and responding to questions and concerns that were raised by the community. And we approached it from many different directions. So we have looked mostly online at services all across Canada that are employing, and even internationally actually, that are employing innovative practices that kind of break down some of the stereotyped rules and constraints that are often imposed in frontline services. And we prepared an inventory of those innovative practices, and we even had an opportunity to talk with quite a few people who are implementing those kinds of things to provide kind of a guidebook to service organizations that want to move in a more inclusive direction. We've also conducted interviews and focus groups with frontline service providers and managers to hear firsthand about what the good practices are that are being implemented in their organizations, but also what some of the barriers and challenges are to making services more inclusive, whether those are at the policy level, at the level of attitudes, or just at the level of just kind of everyday, that's just how things work. And most importantly, we've worked with women. So one key part of the what the project has been based on is just the dialogue of the research team and the advisory committee as the project has developed. And the research team meets every week, and we just talk about everything, and we bring our own lived experiences of being service providers, of being researchers, and of facing homelessness to those discussions. And we look at all of the information we're gathering through those multiple lenses. And we've also hosted weekly meetings in Toronto libraries that are open to any women facing homelessness who want to come, and those have been really open spaces where women have been free to kind of define what they want the space to be and how they want it to work. And we've also had focus groups with women where it's been more directive and we've asked the questions. So some of the service practices that we're interested in knowing more about are ones where women's skills and abilities are recognized and brought forward. So one kind of category of practices we're interested in are those where the women using the services are included in the design and delivery of services. So that can be really broad, from just feedback and evaluation mechanisms and suggestion boxes and residence meetings kinds of things, all the way up to having agency policies of hiring women with lived experience to work as staff and management to bring to bear their knowledge and expertise in making the organization work. A second category of practices that we're interested in are practices that build on women's own self-reliance and mutual support, whether those are formal things within organizations or informal things that are happening all the time. And we all know that we're all always supporting and helping each other. We're all always listening and counseling. We're all always sharing what we have and providing information about resources and providing referrals. Those are not roles that are limited to frontline service providers. Those are things that women are doing amongst ourselves. And yet some practices within services fail to recognize and build upon that, and we are hearing from women that in some cases some of the rules and policies within services might even kind of limit women's ability to support each other. So we're really interested in hearing about things like peer support programs, mentorship programs, as well as hearing from women just about those ways that women are providing referrals and information and counseling and support to and amongst each other outside the context of services. And then the third category that we've been looking at are practices that reflect and respond to the diversity of women, diverse experiences and identities, including diversity around race and Aboriginal identity, immigration status, ability, mental health and addictions, involvement with child protection, and some of the specific experiences that women are bringing to these service settings. So that's the project, and what we'd like to do today is we've gathered all this information, we're starting to try to make sense of it, and what we're hoping to do is do workshops that open spaces for dialogue between and among women who are using services, women who are, or women and men who are service providers and managers, and even funders and city administrators and people positioned in that way. Because we believe that until those dialogues are happening, and especially until women's voices and recommendations are being directly heard by the people with the power to make the changes, those changes aren't going to take place. So what we'd like to do today is test out a workshop, a couple of workshop exercises that we have developed, and then get your feedback on them. And that's what those packages on some of your chairs are. And I don't know how far back in the room we reached with our packages, so we'll read things out to you as well. And you know, you can still work with the questions without having the worksheet in front of you. But I will invite you all to unfold the packages, those that have them, and take a look at what you've got there. And as we move through the workshop, we're going to be asking you to get up and move around if you wish, and then we will come back and sit down and sort of discuss questions and answers that can build up on our understanding. And because this is the gathering of women now, everyone's getting organized to make sure that everybody has packages. It's so awesome. We feel much less alone up here because we know you guys are going to take care of it. Like, we could probably sit down right now, and then you would just do the workshop. So that's a big relief. I'm going to pass it over to Patricia, Sherry. I'm just going to do the self-location piece.
My name is Sherry. The next part we're going to do is calling it self-location piece. And we're using the stick it notes. Everyone got a set of 4. And so the idea is each color is going to represent an experience, and the 4 experiences are being homeless and living in a shelter, being homeless but invisibly homeless, so like couch surfing, low income, housed. The 3rd experience is being a researcher, and then the 4th would be a frontline service provider, and that could be management or frontline, it doesn't matter. So the homeless and in a shelter will be the green stickets. The yellow stickets will be hidden homelessness. The blue will be researcher, and then the pink will represent frontline service provider. So the idea is, you don't have to only identify with one experience. You can use whichever ones you identify with. And we would like to ask everyone if they could stick their experiences up on the wall. It doesn't have to be in any certain order. So we'll do ours first.
So take a look at what we're seeing right here. I really appreciate the fact that some of the women have showed that, the multiple experiences, and oftentimes you're there and then you're back again. You're on top and you're back, or you're down the bottom. It goes in those directions. Another one too. I think the reality is this trying to say that homelessness is very real. It's very much a part of our lives. And for me, I define it as I belong to a socio-economic group in Canada called the Four. It's a very specific group. It's a stratified society, and it's a specific role for us to play. So what we want to do is break out of that. And it all, of course, some of you know, goes back to the old English poor laws, but it's time to end it.
Here, here. So we're gonna move on to our next activity. And on the wall here we have 3 organizations. We invite you to look at them as organizations. Please, here's the mandate. And these are action words that are we've separated them how they are related by stereotypes to service providers and the service users. They're all the same, all 3 of them, because the group is so large, so we'll have 3 separate. Can everyone read the words, or would you like us to read them out?
Yes, please read.
Okay, so service provider, the actions are normally counseling, providing, that's the academic here, providing, analyzing, managing, observing, judging, deciding, measuring, assessing, leading, giving, facilitating, evaluating, withholding, developing, reporting, facilitating, implementing, assisting, assessing, serving, advising, supporting, and working. Providing, but our academic misspelled. And then the action words that are normally associated with service users are fighting, respecting, challenging, disclosing, demanding, volunteering, resisting, telling, receiving, asking, using, depending, eating, listening, abusing, requesting, crying, needing, and yelling. And these are all actions that would take place within a service providing setting or a shelter even.
Does this one work?
Uh-huh.
I'll use this one. Okay. So what we are thinking about is the ways in which these roles seem really fixed, even though we know that everyone is capable of and is doing counseling, for example, and listening and caring work. We all are doing those things with each other all the time. But there's something happening in a lot of service settings where people get very kind of locked in their specific roles. And because of that, the full abilities of everybody in that setting are really not emerging. And we believe that there's something that needs to change within service settings that can allow for everyone to participate in a more inclusive way. And that there are abilities that workers have around being allies and being in solidarity that are not fully expressed through this limiting role here that's defined for a worker in a stereotypical way. And as well, of course, that women using services have a vast array of abilities and knowledge that are not really brought out in service settings. And as long as that continues to be the case, then we're stuck with frontline services whose purpose is to assist individual women who are facing homelessness, but are not addressing the need to end homelessness. We really believe that only working together in solidarity can make that happen, and as long as we stay in our roles, then that will happen. So that in some ways, when we engage in these roles, we're kind of helping to perpetuate homelessness. So we'd like to just invite you to take a couple of moments now, those of you that have the worksheets, or even if you don't, we just want to invite you to think about a service setting that you're familiar with, either because you've worked there or because you've used the services there. And thinking of that setting, ask yourself, what are the policies that are keeping women and workers in their place in these roles in that setting? What are the attitudes that are keeping women and workers in their place in that setting? And what are the barriers that are keeping us in our place? So just reflect on that for a couple minutes. Take a couple notes on your worksheet if you like. We will really appreciate it if you're willing to return the worksheet to us at the end, because this can help us inform ourselves a little more. And then we'll invite some discussion.
The Ontario Works legislation doesn't give individuals enough money for rent, so that contributes to homelessness.
Okay, that's the Ontario Works doesn't give enough for the rent, right? Another policy?
I'll use the mic.
Hello. Another policy in the particular place that I'm thinking of is the nepotism in hiring. Is that they create positions. They create positions so that their aunt or their uncle or their sister or somebody can have a job, and these people are totally unqualified. So the actual hiring policy is they don't have one.
Yeah.
Policy.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I think the need and the drive to meet ministry standards, meaning the agencies have their own agendas meant to meet or exceed these numbers, rendering clients just as numbers and penalizing the women. An example I use is having groups for women and then denying them the handouts if they didn't attend the number because they're not counted as a member attending that group session. That's penalizing. The woman needs the safety literature whether or not she was attending that group.
Anybody else? I have a mic here. Can people hear this one?
Yep.
I'll bring it to them.
One of the policies that I found really frustrating was a policy between ODSP and CPP disability, where when you apply for ODSP, you must apply for CPP disability. And if that is higher, even by $50 or $2, you have to go on CPP disability, which means that you may lose all your benefits, no drug plan, etc. And even when I got help and they allowed me to have extended benefits, even though I was on CPP disability, I was still financially way worse off. It was taxable, my rent went up, I didn't have as much money for food, etc. And the workers had no ability to advocate on my behalf, do anything for me but say, oh, sorry about your luck. So that is a ridiculous policy. And also the fact that a person does not have the choice to stay on ODSP if they choose to.
Thank you. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna walk to the back. And I also just would like to say thank you to everyone who's spoken so far. And I'd really like to encourage people to think about policies and attitudes and barriers within a specific frontline service agency that you're familiar with, like a drop-in or a shelter, and as well as those bigger social policies. I really think it's helpful when we get that nitty-gritty knowledge about what's happening within specific agencies as well. So I've been asked to identify the difference between attitudes, barriers, and policies, and we're not really thinking, we're not trying to hold anyone to those categories. We just thought those 3 words might spark your imagination. So please don't feel like you have to speak to a specific category or get it right. We really just wanted to make sure that the whole range of stuff is spoken. So someone at the front is going to speak, and then I'm bringing this back here.
Thank you. Before I say anything else, I just want to let you know that I am a mother of 4 sons, a sister of 4 brothers, a niece to a number of uncles. So what I say is not against men per se. I'm also involved in an agency that does provide a shelter, housing, and I've worked in a shelter, so I have much experience in this area. When we talk about funding, funding comes with its own rules to the agencies, and those rules must be followed. And you can go into a service to provide that service with the best of heart, only to find your hands tied so many times in providing that service when it comes to dispensing money. In my opinion, I think we need to look beyond how we can loosen those restrictions, because they are patriarchal situations. And as women, we are so very intelligent and good in finding ways around things. We wouldn't be here today if we weren't. And so I think that if we could look at the source, which is where the funding comes from. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So in the center of each organization, we've left it empty, and we're going to call this a shared space where some of the roles are shared within the organization or in delivering the services. And might be a little different. There's so many people in here. We're hoping that each one of these will come and, well, there's three, so you know, the back can focus on the back organization, and then the middle here, and then the front up over here. And we're going to ask you to create what a shared space would look like, how those roles would be, how they would be taken up in a shared space. And you don't have to necessarily get rid of like the separation of the roles. It's totally up to everyone to decide. Like some of the actions may need to stay under a service provider role, and likewise with the service user, but there are some things that can be shared within an organization to engage women's abilities and talents and skills. So we would like to invite those of you who would like to get up and take part in it to come, and we'll have a black marker at each place, and everyone can write one word, an action word, or move a word that's already here. And you can also move a word completely off if you'd like. And then afterwards we'll take a look at, we'll take a look at what the shared space looks like compared to what these roles are, and think about what you can do in the organization or service that you're familiar with. If there's what needs to change to make it look more reflective of our shared space, and also what you could do as an individual to promote that or to help promote that change.
So come on up. One of them is ready to go. It has its new roof.
We have a new roof, shared space with a new purpose to work together to end homelessness. So we invite anyone.
Hello. I just thought this would be an ideal time to use the microphone and share some of the things that we didn't get a chance to share earlier. So one of the problems that I've experienced, the main problem, is the Start Guide funding. It inhibits other agencies from working together, in my opinion. I've read it. I was a part of the Street Connection youth organization. I volunteered there for 7 months, and I was discharged from there, not for any lack of being able to serve, but because I have a criminal record. And I have a singular offense on that criminal record, which inhibits me to continue to serve their clients, and this hurts me greatly. So, one of the things that's a challenge is not being able to use services and then still be able to serve in those services. There's a 2 to 3 year lay period before you can serve in that community. I feel that's oppressive. Peer support work is offered in other cities, but the training you have to pay for. Now, if you're a woman coming out of homelessness and street work, how the hell are you going to find that money, you know? So how do I change my life and other women who want to change their life, who don't qualify for OSAP and don't have rich parents or sugar daddies to pay their way through education? So not to say that that's how everybody got there, but for some people that's conditioned, and I just feel that that's a limitation to having more frontline service workers in a peer capacity.
One of the main barriers that I've found in the policy is that my life is not a project. You hear about this project, other projects, the Devers project, housing projects, other things. My life is not a project. My issues are ongoing. I really believe that some of these things should be an essential service because it's something that's happened for a very long time and it's something that's going to continue to happen, unfortunately. But I'm not a project. My life is not a file. I'm not to be shelved and left to go on to someone else. I am a person, and I deserve the respect to be treated as one.
I was just thinking, you know, as soon as you walk in the door, you sit down, and they start saying, okay, what's your name, where's your address, what's your phone number? There's our basic need right there. Many women that are homeless don't even have a place, don't have a phone number. So right there, the door is shut. So I just think we need, you know, that's a very, very basic need that we all should have. And it's unfortunate because from there, you close so many doors because you got to start at the bottom, getting all your ID all together. And every place says, where's your address? You know, and then come, you know, say you're in transition, you move on in a month, you got to do it all over again. So I just want to say that.
I'm one of these people that when I see a problem, I look at it as a molehill and try to get over it. I wanted to go back to school and start my life over again. I actually was on the other end. I was a service provider. I also owned created a nonprofit organization at one point. And I thought I had it all together. And I worked with people that were from the streets that had kids and everything else. And then I got hit with it. I got hit with it because my recreational center wasn't generating enough money to be able to help the people that were intellectually challenged that I wanted to help. And so I wound up on the other side with no money, no nothing, and broke my leg. I found a little job going to Dunkin' Donuts and thinking, okay, I can actually take care of myself, at least I'll cover my rent, and then I broke my leg and I couldn't do anything. So I wound up with a welfare system. And when I went, well, you're going to hear me tomorrow anyway, but I went up with a welfare system and I said, I'm not staying here. I'm not staying here, I can't make enough money to survive. I don't want to be, I'm 56 years old, yes, I was 52 when it started, and at 52, I'm like, I'm not staying here, I'm going back to school. And I've seen all the injustices and everything. So I've worked with people that are handicapped, I worked with people that were from the streets, I've worked with people that were elderly, and they're in long-term care facilities. And I said, I want to do something with my life. And they said, well, guess what? You need an education. So I'm like, fine, I'll take the education. So the thing is that when I went to go to get the education, to learn the laws, to go back to school, I had nothing, so I had to go on student loans. So here I am, I'm going student loans, and it's almost like welfare, and I'm in an apartment that was costing me over $500 a month, and my student loan was $700, but then I had to pay $103 for a bus pass to get to school, and on top of that, I still had electricity bills. I had food to be able to eat. I couldn't even go to food. I had to go to food bank to get my food. And it started really falling in on me. And so I wound up at the YWCA. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll be able to get subsidized housing, get back on my feet. I was 2 years in school at that point, almost 2 years. And they turned around and told me, guess what? Because you are on, because you're going to school and you're getting subsidized by the government to go to school to get the student loan. This is a loan, by the way. We can't give you subsidized housing. So here I am, still in the same situation, and the YWCA was very kind to me. They gave me 2 years, but my schooling was going to take me 4. I was going to go out and change the world, and I couldn't even change my own situation. So in the end, I had to drop my schooling. I'm still a fighter. I want to go back into the social field again, and I want to go back to school. Hopefully I'll be able to go to school at night sooner or later. But right now I'm going outside for the whole winter because I couldn't get any subsidies. You're not even allowed to have welfare if you go off the system. So I went out and froze my fingers off to the point that I had frostbite and my toes to be out there and handing out papers in front of the metro to be able to survive. And I just feel, for me, okay, maybe it was a spring that unsprung in the system where they aren't realizing that there are some people that want to get off the welfare system, that want to fight, and yes, they are over the age of 50, but that doesn't make us dead. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Can I say one word?
We've gotten our 5-minute warning here. And we'd really, really like to be able to do a second piece that's about solutions. One word is awesome.
Flexibility.
Yes. I wish there was more flexibility in this day. So we just want to look at these beautiful spaces that some of you have created with new words like flexibility, participant involvement, empathy, more positive ways, empower, national campaign, and moving things like asking, respecting, leading, and deciding into the middle where they belong, where everyone is included in those processes. So now just taking another moment to reflect on that same place that you were thinking about in the first place when you were thinking about an agency that you're familiar with, and thinking about those attitudes, policies, or barriers that you identified in that place. They might not be the same ones we've talked about today. What is one thing that could change there that would make it look more like one of these? What's one thing? It doesn't have to be the whole renovation, but even one word that could move, one function that could change, one policy that could be altered, and what you could do in that space from whatever position you're in, whether you're someone accessing that service, whether you're working there, whether you're managing it, whether you're funding it, something that you could do to help create that change. So just take a moment to reflect on that, and then we'll hear some more from the room. What's something that you or others in your organization could do to start to push that, even if it's a little tiny push? What's one thing that people here could take home to think about or do out of that?
Well, I think it's to be open. We're communicating as frontline workers and trying to see how can we work, around that. But I think it's to keep saying it.